Midlands Masala with Arshia Riaz on BBC WM.
Now, the case of Babar Ahmad has been grabbing attention worldwide. Everywhere you look, someone somewhere in the Asian community will be talking about it. An official e-petition for a British terrorism suspect detained in prison for 7 years without charge has now topped over 100,000 signatures, the threshold required for a possible parliamentary debate. Babar Ahmad from South London is challenging his extradition to the United States, where he could be jailed for life. He's accused of running a fundraising operation for extremists in Afghanistan and Chechnya. The alleged offences were committed in the UK, but he's never been charged by British police. Now, I've spoken to the Home Office and they've sent me the following statement. It reads: the case is currently before the European Court. The court has ordered Mr Ahmad's extradition to be stayed whilst it considers the case. The UK will continue to press for the application to be dealt with as soon as possible. So, asking you then, how can a British man be held in a prison for 7 years without charge? Well, joining me are two people who can shed some light onto this. Joining me on the telephone, firstly, is Adil Khan, security analyst and former advisor to the British Parliamentary Committee on Tackling Terrorism. Welcome to the programme, Adil.
Good evening.
And also joining me on the line is the sister of Babar Ahmad, Nazia. Welcome to you both. Welcome, Nazia.
Hello.
Now, let's cross to you, Adil, first. Can you explain how can this happen? How can a British man be detained for 7 years without trial in this day and age?
Well, essentially, there are counter-terrorism laws in Britain, but it's not under the counter-terrorism laws that he's been detained. He's been detained under the Extradition Act 2003, which came into force on January the 1st, 2004. What the Act basically says is that an offence that's punishable by 1 year or more in jail in the United Kingdom or in the United States is what it applies to. Now, what the United States have asked for is the extradition, as you've said already, for Babar Ahmad to face charges that relate to allegedly him supporting Islamist jihadist websites that were raising money for Chechens, Taliban, etc. Now, the US has to prove reasonable suspicion for a UK citizen to be extradited to the US. That basically means that it doesn't have to be a prima facie case of evidence. It's just reasonable suspicion. So the evidence that they base their allegations on is not tested in the UK courts. Whereas to extradite an American from the US, Britain just has to show probable cause, which is a higher burden, effectively. So what people have said, what the argument against the Extradition Act is, that it's lopsided and that there's no reciprocal arrangement from the US in terms of burden, from the UK in terms of the burden of evidence. So Babar Ahmad and the allegations against him have not been tested in the UK courts.
Yeah, I mean, is this case unusual then? 7 years, and you say it's not been tested in UK courts. Why not?
Absolutely, it is unusual. He's the longest Category A detainee, British citizen that is. He's now been in prison for more than 7 years. It's very unusual. There are other cases, like the Gary McKinnon case, but Gary McKinnon, who's wanted by the US for allegedly breaking into Pentagon computers, he's not been detained. So it is unusual. In this country, as in most free countries, people are innocent until they're proven guilty, and they have the right to free and fair trial.
Are you surprised then with the level of anger?
I'm not surprised. The fact is that the Crown Prosecution Service have said on a number of occasions that under the British counter-terrorism laws there is no evidence to prosecute him. There was a petition given previously in 2005 by the Shadow Justice Secretary, who then was and still is Babar Ahmad's MP, Sadiq Khan, to Charles Clarke, the Home Secretary. But he still authorised the extradition, and obviously this is now in the European Court of Human Rights, as you said earlier. So it is very unusual, and also, as Babar Ahmad's family have made it clear, that in 2005, the most senior extradition judge in the UK that's Judge Timothy Workman, said that this is a difficult and troubling case, that the defendant is a British citizen who is alleged to have committed offences which, if evidence were available, could be prosecuted in this country. So he raised concerns, and there's been a whole series of concerns up until now, which I can elaborate on in a short while.
Sure, I mean, I understand. I mean, we're hearing these series of concerns. We're hearing about high-profile MPs as well who've signed this petition. Is it falling on deaf ears? Is it making any difference?
Well, there's a number of issues here. One is that, yes, there's a number of MPs who've signed this e-petition. This e-petition is something which the family of Babar Ahmad, his father, put down, and the e-petition basically says that he should be tried in the UK, and they're calling on the British government to do that. It has 140,502 signatures. That does not mean, though, that the business committee, the backbench business committee in the House of Commons, will allow it to go through for there to be a discussion. So, yes, it shows support, it shows anger, but it's not absolutely guaranteed there'll be a debate. However, there is a cross-party group of MPs led by Dominic Raab who tabled a motion in Parliament saying that the extradition law, that is, not specifically in relation to Babar Ahmad's case, that the extradition laws are unfair.
Well, you're telling me they're unfair. If it means that you get 7 years in prison and you're not getting a trial, then they are unfair, aren't they? That's something that we can actually say.
Well, when the coalition government came into power, it said in its coalition agreement that it would review the extradition laws. Previously, Nick Clegg, the Deputy Prime Minister, leader of the Liberal Democrats, has said that the law was lopsided. David Cameron has criticised it also, previously in opposition. Now, the government promised a review. A review took place, and this review, which is Scott's review, who's a judge, concluded, and this is a bit of a blow to campaigners, and it concluded that the law as it stands is actually not biased against Britons. Now, Dominic Raab MP, Conservative MP, Ming Campbell, Liberal Democrat MP, and Keith Vaz, the chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee, have said that the review is wrong, and they disagree with it. And they have managed to get a debate on the extradition laws, which will be on the 24th of November in Westminster Hall. Now, that is a good sign. Also, Shami Chakrabarti from Liberty, the civil rights campaigner and group, have criticised the review and said that the review has not got it right and it should be discarded. Because what the review effectively has said, this is the Sir Scott's review, that there's no practical difference between the information that's submitted to and from the United States in terms of the burden of proof.
Sure, I'm going to stop you there because I just want to bring in Nazia as well. It's really good to get some context, by the way, in all of this and get some key dates, but also understand that there is a debate still very much ongoing. But we need action now. Nazia, you're the sister of Babar, but you've also been leading quite a vigorous campaign, haven't you?
Well, yes. I mean, initially, 7 years ago, it started off with just a few of us, just a few members of the family and a few close friends. And as the years have gone by, we've been gathering that support. But just the last few months, I'd say, with the petition, it's been incredible. It's been phenomenal, the amount of support we have now got. I mean, to reach 140,000, we've had people going up and down the streets. They've been knocking on people's doors. They're going in shopping centres. I'm inundated with hundreds of emails every day. I've got someone saying to me, I was in Rotherham and someone knocked on my door. I mean, it's just, it's been quite amazing, especially the last few weeks with the petition, because there's a sense of anger out there. People didn't know who Babar Ahmad was. He was just a man in South London who occasionally would come in the news every so often. But now everyone's talking about him. Everyone knows about him. Everyone knows about this case. And the fact that it's taken 7 years for someone to know that this man has been in prison for 7 years. 7 years of his life have been taken away from him, and he's still yet to face any trial for what he could have been, for what he's been alleged to have committed.
How did you manage to get over 100,000 signatures?
I mean, to be honest with you, when we started off, we were looking forward to it, thinking, how are we going to do this? And I'll be honest with you, we had a 3-month deadline because we didn't know how Europe was going to decide, and it was going to be a struggle. But it's just amazing the number of people who've just, we've got people who we don't even know who have been working in pockets of the country here and there, who've been doing their own thing. People have been contacting us saying, I've been going to schools. I went to my old school. My headmaster there has been got all the students to sign it. I'd say there's people who are working through the night, literally just working day and night, trying to get these signatures, going on streets. Like I said, in the last final week, I think then we got a lot of support from celebrities. So when we reached around 60,000, we had Amir Khan, the boxer. He was tweeting it, Facebooking it. We had, there's this young lad from South Croydon. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he does these videos called Diary of a Bad Man.
Yeah.
He did a video, he gets over 3 million hits, and then, he was, these people were appealing to different people in the community, different people out there, different British citizens, because this is not a Muslim issue. This is not an Asian issue. This is something that could affect any British citizen, and, that's why we even had Mark Thomas, the comedian. He was tweeting it, and within 3-4 days we were well over 100,000.
Now, Adil's mentioned kind of this idea of lobbying and reviewing cases. You've been lobbying as well, the Director of Public Prosecutions, to review this case. How tough has that been for you?
Well, basically, what we've been saying now, we've always been saying this. We said that if Babar has committed any crime in the US, fine. He should be extradited to America, like any other person who's committed a crime in another country. However, all the crimes that he's alleged to have committed have been in the UK. So why can he not be put on trial in the UK? We've been saying to the Director of Public Prosecutions that review any evidence that you have against him, because the initial raid in 2003, when he was initially arrested and then released without charge, any evidence that was seized was then sent to America. So there's actually no evidence. If there is any evidence, why can that evidence not be brought in a court of law in this country? Why can he not be put on trial in this country? I mean, if he was to be trialed, if he was to be convicted, fine. If he was to be released, that's fine. But he should be facing a trial in this country, because if he goes to America, he could face life imprisonment in a supermax prison. That's 23 hours lockup, no phone calls, no visits from family, and that's pre-trial. That's even before any conviction for life imprisonment. So we really don't want him to go there. If there's anything he has to face, that should be here.
Sure. Now, as a sister, do you get to visit your brother, make calls? What's the situation there? What kind of contact do you have?
We visit him quite regularly. I mean, I actually went to visit him this morning. We've been visiting him for the last 7 years. He's been taken to various prisons all over the country. At the moment, he's actually held in HMP Longlartin, which is in Evesham, Worcestershire. That's quite far for Barbara's parents, my parents, because they actually still live in South London. We receive phone calls from him, and we do keep in touch with him like that. But obviously, it's not easy. 7 years is a long time. 7 years has meant a lot for. If you ask yourself what has happened to you in the last 7 years, a great deal has happened for anyone that you may ask. Births, deaths, marriages, everything's going on, but Barbara's life is still on standstill. He doesn't know what his fate is. He doesn't know if he's going to be released tomorrow, the day after, in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. He doesn't know. And that uncertainty is the thing that is most painful, I think, for all of us.